Good day. My name is Anil Rajvanshi, and today I am going to talk about the science of Patanjali's Yoga Sutras. I run a small NGO called Nimkar Agriculture Research Institute in Fulton, Maharashtra, and we work in the areas of agriculture, research, renewable energy, animal husbandry, and sustainable development. And besides my technical work, I am also very interested in the spirituality, and I have written a lot of articles and books on it. And today I'm going to talk about the science of Patanjali Yoga Sutras. To my mind, Patanjali's Yoga Sutras are the most scientific writing of ancient India, and I would like to share with you what I have understood from trying to read those Yoga Sutras and what is I feel should be done. Patanjali Yoga Sutras are the origin of science of yoga. There are speculation that they were written about 2,500 years ago by sage Patanjali. His antecedents are also not known. Who was sage Patanjali? We do not know. Whether there was a one person, two persons, or whoever it was. And in fact, we don't even know how he looked. There are some few statues of his. Some are half human, half serpents. Some are in other forms. We don't even know anything about it. But yes, what we know that he wrote this beautiful book called Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, that it has come to us. How many sutras were there in those original ones, we do not know. But whatever has come to us is still so much fantastic document, such a fantastic book, that I feel that we still have to dig deeper into it to really understand the science and technology behind it. It was one of the most famous and most translated of Indian philosophy books. In fact, there are estimates that it was translated in 40 or 50 different languages. It went all over the world in 1400, 1500. It was very much in the Middle East, in Europe, etc. We do not know exactly, but it is said that it had a very wide impact all over the world. To my mind, it is one of the most scientific spiritual books of ancient times, whether in India or anywhere else. And it really talks more about the science rather than any religion or anything. I've been inspired by his writings, and I have always been guided by the spirit of Patanjali in all my spiritual writings, utterances, etc. Before I delve into Yoga Sutras, I would like to briefly talk about my spiritual journey. At the age of 13, I was given Mahatma Gandhi's autobiography as a present. This was in Hindi. It was given by my father. And reading it, I stopped my studies, etc. It just caught hold of my brain so much that I just kept on reading about it. And his early life had a tremendous impact on me, and it opened up floodgates for spiritual adventure. I went to a very famous convent school called St. Francis School in Lucknow, and there were no books on India's spiritual leaders or the Indian spiritual tradition. Uh, the library didn't have any of those books, but very close to our house was a famous library called Acharya Naren Dev Library in Lucknow, and my father was a member. And in those times, very few people went to this library. And when I went there, I could get a lot of books on Ram Krishna, Vivekananda, Buddha, Christ, Swami Ram, Aurobindo, etc. I used to bring them and read them continuously. Reading these autobiographies, reading these biographies, developed a tremendous desire that I should read scriptures, because all these people talked about the great tradition of India, which included Rig Veda, Mahabharata, Ramayana, Patanjali's Yoga Sutras. And I was also very much inspired by Ramakrishna, because he said that there are different paths, but the goal is same. And so he said that whether it is Muslim or Christian or Sikh or any religion, there are different paths, but the goal is same. And that was understanding the universal consciousness. And so I became very interested in reading about Quran, Bible, etc. Now you can imagine that how much can you register at the age of 14? The brain may be powerful, but the experience is not there. So you'll not be able to absorb. But there was a tremendous desire to learn, and that intensity was very much there. And I feel very happy, and I must thank the higher forces that it made me read all these things, because though I did not understand very much, but some of the basic things always remain deep in my memory. And when the opportunity came, then they were all triggered. And this led me to write more on spirituality and other things when I came back from United States. But I'm jumping in my story. And Ramakrishna and Patanjali had the greatest impact at that time. Ramakrishna, because his books were from the Ramakrishna mission, were written in a very simple manner, and they were very interesting to read about his spiritual journey, how he was taught by different people, and how he learned tantric yoga, and he had a lot of powers and etc. And Patanjali was a very tough reading, and I don't think I understood anything at the time. But what I understood is that if you follow Patanjali's yoga, then you get this tremendous number of supernatural powers. And for a young, energetic person, it had a tremendous attraction. You can do this, you can do that. And so that attracted me to that. It always remained at the back of my mind that these superhuman powers can be obtained, but how and in what form, I was not sure. And it didn't occur at that time. One could not even understand what Patanjali was trying to say. So it was left at that. Then from my school, I went to IIT Kanpur to do my BTech in mechanical engineering. This was in 1967. And then from there, I went to the United States to pursue my PhD and higher studies. And so the spiritual studies somehow were kept in the back burner. The brain, when it had read that, when I had read all these things, these memories were there inside the brain, but it did not get any opportunity to flower. And so when I came back from the United States, I believe, I came back at that time with this tremendous arrogance that I have learned a tremendous amount of knowledge. I've gained a lot of knowledge on solar energy, and then I'll come back and will change India by using my solar energy knowledge, help the rural areas, etc. And the spirituality was never in the vision field. But I believe that whatever happens is for the good, and there must be some forces at work which make you take decisions about which you do not know. And as they say, that humans propose, but God disposes. And I believe those higher forces brought me to India, not only to work on the rural development, but to continue my spiritual journey, which I started at the age of 30. And I feel always extremely grateful to those higher forces, of which I think I am the medium, that they allowed me to continue these studies and to understand the great tradition of India. I came back to India to change India, but India changed me. And that was a spiritual journey that I'm talking about and that I am going to talk about in this talk on Patanjali. So Patanjali and Mahatma Gandhi, they were the two personalities who had a major impact on my work. Reading about Patanjali and Gandhiji played an important role in my work. Gandhiji's thoughts helped me in developing technologies for rural areas. We have done some very interesting work in rural development, and I have written a book on our work. It's called as A Romance of Innovation, or a human interest story of doing R&D in rural setting. We did a lot of very interesting work, though we could not do very huge amount. And I think it is not one person who can do it. It is a whole country which can contribute towards improving the life of the rural poor. But whatever we did, I have written this in this book. It is quite well known. A lot of people read it. They come to us. And I have made all my books freely available on the net. And I would urge some of you to have a look at this book and other books. And the URL of this book is narivaltan.org/roi.pdf. How, in a very limited resources, we did some very interesting work, very good science and technology. And I think this could be a lesson for so many people who want to set up a science and technology NGOs in rural India. Patanjali's sutras helped me in understanding the nature of human thought. In fact, I wrote my first book called The Nature of Human Thought. It was guided by Patanjali Yoga Sutras, and his work was an inspiration for that. And so this was the source of all understanding and human endeavor. Therefore, I owe it to the spirit of Patanjali that whatever I have understood and written about spirituality has been guided by it. My latest book, which is called The Exploring the Mind of God, or How Technology Guided by Spirituality Can Lead to Happiness, is basically a commentary on Patanjali Yoga Sutra in the light of modern science and technology. This book is also freely available on the net, and the URL is given here, and I will urge you to look at it. There are 3 sections in this book. The first section is how to make your mind powerful. Basically, this is a collection of all my writings on spirituality, because when I've been writing for the last 20 years, and I thought all these things can be put together in this different sections to show how science and technology and spirituality are very important to be meshed together for the benefit of mankind. So the first section of the book is about how to make your brain extremely powerful. Then once you have made your brain very powerful, the processor then starts looking for more experiences and challenges. And that is how you use the technology for making your life better and your surroundings. And once you have done that, then the brain is looking for more challenges, and the challenges can come from the galactic travel and from knowing about the universe, not only about thinking about it, but actually visiting it and gaining that experience. And I believe that all the extraterrestrial visits that we have had on this planet Earth have come probably from this thinking, that once the brain becomes very powerful, once you have evolved to a certain level, then the galactic travel is the next step for mankind. And I believe very strongly in that. And these are the 3 sections which have been written in this book. I also feel that I am just a medium to broadcast Patanjali's writings. I have not understood completely. In fact, it will take generations to understand his deep writings in the light of science and technology. You can write about it in the regular manner, but if you really need to understand what he would have thought, then it requires a tremendous amount of getting into the depth of his writings. And I believe that the mantra for development, not only for India, but for the rest of the world, is that spirituality plus technology is equal to happiness. In fact, this is the theme of my book, Exploring the Mind of God, and it has been written as a separate essay. So I would urge for some of you to look at this essay. So you'll get a gist, you'll get a feeling of what I'm trying to say in this book. Patanjali's insights are tremendous, and I'll talk now a little bit about that. His writings are like infinite ocean. The more you read, the deeper is the knowledge. Recently, Netflix produced documentaries, I think 6 of them, on the UFOs, or the unidentified flying objects which have visited the world, and it brought in together all that is known as of today. In fact, recently the government of the United States has also released the videos of the about these flying saucers or UFOs shot by their Navy pilots or Air Force pilots, and so people believe that they are real. We still do not know what the technology for them to travel, have anti-gravitational system of propulsion, etc. But what was very interesting was, in fact, I'll digress a little bit. In 1960s, I read the book by George Adamski. He was an American author. He wrote the book called Flying Saucers Have Landed. When I read it in 1960s, this book was in our house. My father had bought it, and it just got tremendous. It just got my attention, and I read it with a very fine tooth comb at the age of 15, 16, 17, and it opened up a whole lifelong love affair with UFOs. I felt that they were real. I could not, I thought that what Adamski was talking was the reality. Later on, it was found that Adamski was a hoax. But somehow, that reading that book opened up a completely new area. And I believed that such a thing could exist. And then I read more and more. And with the internet, one could get a lot of knowledge about UFOs. And now it's an open fact that most of the documentaries and others have shown that government of the United States and other governments have a lot of knowledge about these aliens and about their aircrafts. We still do not know how it functions, but at least we have a physical evidence about some of these things. Now there's a professor, John Mack. He was a professor at Harvard. He was a professor of psychiatry, psychology, and he became interested in the experiences of these people who were abducted by UFOs or the extraterrestrials. So he interviewed, I think, 300 to 400 these abductees. They were called as abductees because they were abducted to go into the alien aircraft. And he found a very interesting thing, that irrespective of the aircraft, irrespective of the aliens, because they were all different types of humanoids or etc., the experiences of all abductees were similar. They saw that these aliens, they never walked on the ground. They always floated on the air. They had this tremendous power to get into your mind. They could communicate with you telepathically. They would become invisible. They would beam you through the light into their aircraft, etc., etc. The interesting part is that this is exactly what Patanjali wrote 2,500 years ago. That when a yogi advances in his yogic sadhana, or when he becomes very much advanced in his controlling the mind, he gets all these powers. So this thought came that maybe Patanjali was an ancient astronaut, and he wrote about these things 2,500 years ago, and we still do not have the knowledge and the technology, but the idea exists. And so if we understand Patanjali's third section, which is about the powers that a yogi can get, then maybe we can help in developing the technologies for galactic travel. Because if these aliens exhibited those unnatural or supernatural powers, then those powers must have been used for the travel in their machines galactically. And therefore, I feel that Patanjali was an extraterrestrial astronaut with tremendous scientific knowledge. And this has been the bane about all Patanjali's commentaries, because the Patanjali's commentaries were written by people who did not understand science, including the great Vivekananda, who made Patanjali Yoga Sutras very popular, but he had no scientific background. And so he glossed over some of these powers. But I believe that if we look at some of these sutras from the scientific point of view, then we may be able to produce something fantastic from them. His sutras talk about concept of time. In fact, I have been writing about some of these sutras and how they match with the modern understanding of science and technology. And these are the URLs on the articles that I have written about that. And I'll appreciate if you read them. And I'll be very happy to get a feedback on whether what I have written makes sense or is total nonsense. So he talks about the concept of time. In fact, it's a very fascinating concept that he talks about, which matches very much what Einstein talked about. It talks about mind-matter interaction, how one can get away from the gravitational field, and I've written about that. Then it talks about levitation, flying through air, mind reading, becoming invisible, etc., etc. And this is all what the aliens showed and what the abductees saw when they were abducted to go in the UFOs. And so this is a similar description of power of aliens by abductees. Now, Patanjali's basic yoga can be summed up in three sections, three points. Everything that he talks about in 195 sutras is about how to focus on a single thought for a long time. How you should have your body perfected, how you should focus, develop the mechanism of focusing, etc., etc. And what are the things of doing it, whether it's pranayam, etc. But the basic philosophy is that you should be able to focus your mind on a single thought for a long time. And that is yoga. And that is the basis of Patanjali's philosophy. Once you do that, it leads to Sanyam. He defines Sanyam as a combination of Dhyan, Dharan, and Samadhi, which means concentration, Dhyan, Dharan is contemplation. Whatever object or subject you want to study, you are contemplating on it, and Samadhi, when the object or subject vanishes from your vision and only its essence or a ghost remains. This means that you get so much involved in that subject or object that you become a part of that. And this Sanyam leads then to a complete knowledge on any object or subject that you are working on. In fact, I believe that all the great discoveries of this planet Earth have come by people who had tremendous powers of concentration, who looked at the subject very deeply by continuously focusing on it. So the nature showed all its secrets to them, whether it was Newton's gravitational laws or Einstein's theory of relativity, etc. Anybody who has discovered the truths of the universe has come by these three things: Dhyan, Dharan, Samadhi, on any object. And Patanjali wrote about this 2,500 years ago, not as an abstract thing, but telling exactly how it can be done. And in fact, he talks about that if you do Sanyam on an object or a part of body, then you get this tremendous supernatural powers. And this is something which I think we need to understand and try to find out how it happens. And once you get the supernatural powers, it helps in liberation from cycle of birth and death, which is the basic philosophy of Patanjali. Because all Indian scriptures talk about to get mukti or liberation from this cycle of birth and death. And Patanjali, to my mind, is the first scientific book on how you do it step by step, A, B, C, D, etc. It's also a great book because it does not talk about any religion. It talks purely about the science of mind control, the science of thought control. In fact, there are only 7 out of 195 sutras which talk about universal consciousness. It does not talk about God or anything. Later on commentaries, people have talked about God, this, that, etc. But Patanjali only talks about universal consciousness, which he defines by Ishwar. In fact, he says that Ishwar is known by the original word. It does not say anything about Om or anything. It is the later commentaries which talked about Om. But he talks about the original word. And original word was the first waves which came out of Big Bang, if we believe in Big Bang. So it's a very interesting thing that he talks about 2,500 years ago, which is so deep in the modern science and technology. Yoga Sutras are not easy to read since commentaries on it have been written by people who did not understand science. And that is where the problem lies. And it is my humble attempt in trying to make them aware that there's a lot of science involved in that. And all of us should look into that and see how we can extract the information in these sutras. The sutras are precise and crisp, so very deep understanding based on modern science and technology is needed to really understand their meaning. They came by the oral tradition to us. Only in the last 300, 400 years, they were written up. But in between, I have a feeling because the more I read, I find that there are quite a number of sutras which are missing. We do not know what it contains because there are, for example, he talks about understanding the pole star, and from pole star, he comes straight to the belly button. So there's a big jump in his imagination. And I have a feeling that there must be something more to that. But whatever it is, whatever we have gotten today itself is a gem of knowledge and a very deep source of something which can do wonderful in future. I wrote my first book, The Nature of Human Thought. They were inspired by Patanjali Yoga Sutras. And this was my first humble attempt in trying to explain these extraordinary scientific concepts. Again, this book, it has been made available. It's freely available on the net. And I'll urge some of you to look at it. My second book, the latest book, The Mind of God, sums up all the things that I have tried to write in all my spiritual writings. And so this is what I wanted to convey, that there's a great amount of science and technology which is involved, which is embedded in these sutras, and we should approach them from that angle. I thank you very much for listening to me. Here are the useful links. The first link is on my Nature of Human Thought. The second is on the Exploring the Mind of God. The third one is on the Romance of Innovation, or about our research and development in NARI. And the fourth is about all my writings, videos, talks, etc. So if some of you are interested, you are most welcome to visit these URLs. And I'll also be very happy to receive your feedback. And so these are my emails, and you can email to me your ideas and thoughts, and I'll reply. And thank you very much again.